All right, Monday morning Krueg Show. Sam Betesh is in the house. We're going to talk some NFL. Join us. Of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. Let's go. Off and running on a Monday morning, 11:16 West Coast, 2:16 back east. Hope everybody's having a great day. Welcome to the Krueg Show, brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. We're also brought to you by Mancini's Sleep World. Their huge Memorial Day sale is live through June the 9th. That's right. Memorial Day continues at Mancini's until June the 9th. You can save up to $1,200 on select adjustable mattress sets, plus they're throwing in an extra 10% off with your promo code Krueg10. That's right. They got their best price guarantee, 365-night comfort guarantee, and free next-day delivery. So if you've been thinking about upgrading your bed, now's the time. Just make sure you jump on it before June the 9th. Make sure you use the code Krueg10 to save an additional 10% at checkout. That's KRUEG 10 at checkout at any of Mancini's locations or online at sleepworld.com. We're also brought to you, we should tell you, by Claw Daddy Arcades. That's right. Claw Daddy Arcades is a sponsor of the Krueg Show. They're a great follow on Instagram at claw_daddy_arcades to find a location near you. They've got 3 down in Southern Cal. They've got one in Fresno, one in Modesto, and they got a brand new location opening here in the Bay Area. So Claw Daddy Arcades, bringing family-friendly fun to communities across California. Once again, he's a great follow on Instagram at claw_daddy_arcades to find a location near you. And we have the Mancini's logo up there for you all to see. But we also do have a Claw Daddy Arcades logo here as well that we can throw your way. And boom! Look at that.
Yes.
Look at that. You got a little Claw Daddy Arcades there. You can't beat that either. Sammy, good to see you, man. How's your weekend?
Dude, Larry, it is great. It was beautiful to be with you for Memorial Day. That was a special one that we did. We did not miss a beat on that, and I loved getting the story from your father and the connection there with what Memorial Day really means to you and your family. So that was extremely cool. And these Mondays have been fantastic. And I know you threw a little bit of a new idea our way today, and I think it's a spectacular one. We will get to the breakout players, but I want you to explain now what we get to do on Mondays. Between the two of us.
Well, I stream an awful lot. I mean, I streamed earlier today with Damon. I'll stream at 2:00 today with the great Grant Cohn.
Yes.
And I talk a lot of Niners, and it's a lot of Niners. I do occasionally talk some Giants and some Warriors, but it's a mostly Niners channel. And Sammy and I decided we were going to get together on Mondays and do a regular Monday stream. And instead of specifically, focusing on the Niners like I do on so many other streams, that we would focus a little bit more generally on the NFL. And, we're still going to talk Niners, as you'll see today. But yeah, so we're doing an NFL-based live stream every Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific with me and Sam chopping it up. So I'm looking forward to it. We've done 3 or 4 already, and it's gone really, really well, and people are digging it. Lots of people, heck, I didn't want to hurt Damon's feelings, but we stepped in last week for Damon. People are like, get rid of Damon. Damon, easy. We're not getting rid of Damon. But people really are digging you, Sam, and we're we've been friends for a long, long time, so it's natural for us to get on here and talk football. And let's get right to it. Today we're going to do 6 NFL topics. 6 NFL topics: Bryce Huff, Caleb Williams, Aaron Rodgers, PFF's running back rankings, breakout players, and then we're going to finish with Tyreek Hill to the Niners, a rumor that was floated, or an idea that was floated by Mike Florio last week. So we'll get into all of these topics, but why don't we start with Bryce Huff? Because Sammy, if you don't know Sammy is an Eagles fan, but spent a lot of time here in Northern California, spent a lot of time in Southern California. And obviously the Eagles did something that, some would just say never do. Some would say, hey, if you never, ever, ever deal good players or players that that potentially can help your opponent, never trade them to your arch rival. The 49ers did this. They traded Charles Haley to the Dallas Cowboys, and it probably cost them 2 or 3 Super Bowls because Dallas was good enough to win with Charles Haley, and he was the difference. So a lot of times teams do not want to deal with other teams, either in their division or in their conference if they're rivals. So why did Howie deal with the Niners? Well, I think it's a combination of things. I think it's one, I think there's not a lot of bidders for Bryce Huff, even though I think there are some. I think the 49ers had something that they cared about that made this a go, which is the Niners want to spend less money. The Eagles are not worried about the money. The Eagles want to get good assets. The Eagles made a bad decision to get Bryce Huff. It didn't work out. And so they're looking for a painless way out, and they're willing to pay some of the money, $9 million in year one, to get a better draft choice. So the talk was that the Eagles were asking for a 3rd-round pick around the draft, and the draft came and went, and nobody gave them a 3rd-round pick. So then, the thinking was that maybe teams were offering like a 5th or a 6th-round pick, and that the 49ers said, hey, look, Eagles, if you're willing to pay some money up front, we'll give you a 4th-round pick. We'll beat those other teams' picks by a full round. And that's what I think ultimately happened here. I think the Eagles helped out the Niners by paying some of that money down and making Huff an attractive candidate to them. And then the Niners helped the Eagles out by giving them a 4th-round pick when they were probably going to get a 5th or a 6th at best if there was an offer out there, a competing offer. So I think it's really the Eagles just figuring out a way to use their financial, situation to improve their draft pick compensation. And I also think that the Eagles, because they won the Super Bowl, when you win the Super Bowl and your opponent wins 6 games, suddenly you have the upper hand. The year before, I don't know that they would have made this deal.
No way. No way.
But after they won the Super Bowl, and then you look at, Philly's depth chart, Philly's got Nolan Smith. Philly's just picked up Josh Uche. Philly just, they picked up Azeez Ojulari. I mean, they added to that spot, created a surplus, and then traded a player that didn't fit their scheme. And, but at the same time, the one fallacy is that Bryce Huff didn't play well. Yeah. Bryce Huff did play well last year. He just didn't play very much. And, my son put out a tweet earlier today, or he put it out yesterday, I think he did, where he kind of explored some of the stats. And one of the stats that's pretty interesting is last year, 2024, Bryce Huff ranked 10th in the NFL in pass rush win rate, 24.1% on true pass sets. That was ahead of Danielle Hunter, ahead of Eric Armstead, ahead of Will Anderson Jr. So there are people that look at Bryce Huff and say, 10 sacks in 2023, 2.5 sacks in 2024. He's a one-year wonder. But if you look closer at pass rush win rate, he really had good numbers in 22, 23, and 24. So he's not really a one-year wonder. He's a 27-year-old guy who fits the Niners wide 9 scheme a lot better than he fits the Eagles scheme. And so that's why the Niners did it. The Eagles did it because I think they're willing to trade him to the Niners because the Niners are willing to give that 4th-round pick. And I think the Niners are willing to give the 4th-round pick because they have 3 of them in this upcoming draft. And so they feel like they've got a surplus that they're trading out of there. So I think it's kind of win-win.
It is, and Howie gets a lot of credit. Here's what happens. Your other point about winning the Super Bowl areas, now everything Howie does seems brilliant. Let's look at this. The idea that you got the draft capital is very smart. You had nothing for Bryce Huff. You had this huge paycheck. This guy doesn't play a single playoff game for you. He doesn't even suit up on Super Bowl Sunday, and you win the entire thing. So you've got nothing for Bryce Huff, which you've now turned into a 4th-round draft pick. But before we say congratulations, Howie, we at least have to admit that everything Howie touches doesn't turn to gold. And for no GM does this happen. But Bryce Huff undoubtedly is, for the Eagles, a mistake in regards to the amount of money that they gave him for what they got back in return. So let's just admit that and breathe and say it's okay. Everyone can make a mistake. They made a mistake. They did what they could to get something in a fourth-round draft pick back, and most likely we will be praising the Eagles next year around this time in the draft when they pick up something in the fourth round, and we can say, oh, that's what they're getting for Bryce Huff. It's going to look good on paper. That's fine. But let's also look at what Brandon Graham said. And for the Niners that want to feel great about this, read what Brandon Graham said about Bryce Huff. He loved Bryce Huff coming to Philly from the Jets. He absolutely knows that Bryce Huff is a player that can get after the quarterback. He is someone who he wants next to him on a defensive line, in a defensive front. This is absolutely, he was excited about the opportunity to have Bryce. And Bryce, simply in the scheme that Vic Fangio and the Eagles deployed, it wasn't always about going after the quarterback. What they do is not exactly the same scheme that Saleh had for him in New York, where he did certainly put up those 10 sacks. I mean, this is the same guy for sure, and I'm glad that Kevin put that out there for you, Larry. It is true. This player is capable of everything he did in New York. It just happened to be that in Philadelphia, the way that they put it together, he wasn't in the same scheme to be able to collect the traditional statistics that everyone hangs their hat on when it comes to this position. But Bryce Huff is absolutely the kind of player on a defensive line that you want. It just happened to be that for Fangio, it didn't fit with the rotation of players that they had, and they didn't need him on the field as much. And it helps a lot. Look, Jalix Hunt, it helps a lot that you've got players that you drafted that could do what Bryce Huff did, and being deep at this position. Larry, this Super Bowl has changed everybody's mentality about the defensive line. Being deep at that position is what matters now to teams. If you look at the first round of this draft, and if you look at the entirety of this most recent draft, teams have shifted based on what just happened to Patrick Mahomes in that Super Bowl because of what the Eagles did in getting after him. And Huff simply didn't fit the scheme of what the Eagles were doing. But Brandon Graham, who spent an entire season with him and is now very unbiased, he's retired, he's nothing to gain by saying anything, and he simply says, Huff's a dog. Huff's absolutely a guy that you want in there. So for the Niners, this does feel like a win. I'm not ready to say it's a win-win for the Eagles, because I think it all comes back to, what is that fourth-round draft pick going to be? Who is the player we get to circle and say, Bryce Huff became this for the Eagles? Because right now, it's a price tag on something that absolutely did not deliver for them for this particular season, even though they have Super Bowl rings. Huff has a Super Bowl ring. They all get to say that it worked out in the end, because there is no better happy ending than the Super Bowl championship. But Huff did not earn his money in Philadelphia. Not at all.
Well, no question. I mean, everybody looks at football, and, when you're watching it, you're seeing four guys rush the quarterback, and nobody really sees the nuances in these schemes. The Eagles run under Vic Fangio a 34 front,
yes.
3 down linemen, a nose guard, 2 guys playing the 5 technique, and then outside backers flanked off of the outside of their outside shoulder. So you're talking about their starters at outside backer are Nolan Smith Jr., who was their first-round draft choice in 2023, and then Jalix Hunt, who was their third-round pick this last year. So then the Eagles in the offseason went and signed Azeez Ojulari away from the New York Giants. They signed Josh Uche, the former Patriot who was in Kansas City last year. They signed Patrick Johnson. Then they drafted Antoine Powell-Ryland out of Virginia Tech in the 6th round, and he was probably like a 3rd or 4th-round talent. So, Smith and Hunt, that's 2. Uche and Ojulari, that's 4. Johnson and Powell-Ryland, that's 6. Most teams go with 5. So where does that, put Bryce Huff? He was squarely on the outside looking in, and it's just
especially at the price tag. Of
course, but I mean, it's really that Bryce Huff is not an outside backer. He doesn't stand up. He puts his hand in the dirt. He puts sometimes he'll go 4-man stand, 4-point stance, and he's down in the dirt with both hands. His game is he gets off the football, but he's not a drop and cover linebacker. So he's not a coverage player at all. He's only going to go forward. So, and you're right. Brandon Graham went on the Ross Tucker podcast. Here's the quote. I just think with the Jets, it was just that defense, man. I know what it's like playing in that 4-3 wide 9, go get it every play. It's always stop the run on the way to the quarterback. That's the slogan in that type of a defense. I feel like it's all scheme. I mean, I've seen different guys flourish in different systems, and then you see them get in another system. It's different. And when and what they asked of Huff this year, it just wasn't a great marriage, I would say. So, this is according to Sports Info Solutions. Huff had 89 snaps last year where he rushed the passer in the wide 9 technique. That includes 13 snaps he played for Philly in the playoffs. Under Saleh in 2023, the year prior, that number nearly tripled to 240 snaps in the wide 9, which was the 8th most of any player in the NFL in 2023. So Nick Bosa was second in 2023. With 449 total rushes from the wide 9. So there you go. I mean, it's really more about technique. And Graham continued. He says, because I know Huff can rush. I see him doing all that, but sometimes it's just different with the type of scheme and what people ask of you and what they want you to be able to do. And maybe it just wasn't that for Vic Fangio. I just know that Huff's a baller, man. And hopefully for him, I just want it to be a win for the team and a win for him. In this case, I'm going to be happy if it's here or somewhere else for him to be able to show what he can do in these prime years for him. So, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, the Niners are getting a defensive end who's in his prime. The guy just turned 27 in January. He's 1 year removed from a career year. It's not like, anything last year added any tread to the tires. So, and once again, sacks don't do Huff's 2023 season justice. If you filter pass rushers from the wide 9 in 2023, Huff was 7th in quarterback hits. Bosa was 1st. 8th in quarterback pressures. Bosa was 2nd. When viewed from a percentage standpoint, Huff led the NFL in pressure percentage at 23%. So, I mean, come on, man. That's if you can get a guy like that. Huff was productive among players lining up in the wide 9 technique last year. He finished with the 9th highest pressure percentage, 17.9 of players with at least 15 pressures. He only had 89 snaps, so there wasn't an opportunity there. The same opportunity that he had in New York, and that's obviously going to change with the 49ers. So
it's just smart. It's smart that
it's a fit.
This guy's most productive years were with Saleh. This guy put the most together with Saleh. He's pairing up with Saleh again. This is the right thing for the Niners to do. And if you look at other opportunities the Niners had in this offseason, Bosa's brother is the other player we were talking about. Oh, maybe it would be fun to see Nick and Joey together. It feels to me like Huff's got more upside at this point than Bosa does. And we'll see. We'll see what Bosa does in Buffalo, which is interesting. Obviously, the Niners didn't go for that. And again, there was a nice price tag associated with Joey Bosa as well. This is interesting. Huff, to me, fits it better because of the age, as you just mentioned, and the idea that he's got this incredibly positive history with Saleh. Again, that's the magic here, Larry. Of all the teams, if you were going to put this guy anywhere, you'd have to say either going back to the Jets, and obviously Aaron Glenn didn't feel that was important for him, or following Saleh to the new scheme where you would assume he's got more around him in San Francisco than he had in New York. And he had too much around him in Philadelphia for what Fangio was trying to do. So this is you're going to hear from Bryce Huff this season. I could mark my hat on that. We are going to hear Bryce Huff's name this season in a positive way on the defensive side for the Niners. I absolutely think that is going to happen. I love this for Huff.
I think this is the best defensive end the Niners have had since they've had opposite Bosa because, D Ford had 6.5 sacks in his best season. This guy's had 10. D Ford was old by the time the Niners got him and was beat up. This guy's not. This guy's 27, coming off a year where he was used lightly and should be healthy and really ready to roll. So
and motivated. Again. I mean, he feels like he's on a Super Bowl champion and did nothing, right? He feels like essentially he got credit for the project that was handed in by the group, and he did nothing, and he knows it, and the world knows it. So he's got something to prove now.
No doubt, no doubt. So topic number one, Bryce Huff. I think it's a win-win. I think the Eagles got a better pick from the Niners than they would have. I think the Niners win because they get a very impactful player. I mean, let's be honest here. In 2023 under Robert Saleh, Bryce Huff was third in the NFL in pass rush win rate. To get a player for a fourth-round pick in next year's draft who was, top 5 in pass rush win rate, you'd swear, the guy has to be 35. No, he's 27. So you get a 27-year-old guy who last time he was in this scheme under this coordinator, he was third in the NFL in pass rush win rate, and now you get to put that guy opposite Nick Bosa. And then I know a lot of the negative Niner people are like, oh, they signed him after minicamp. They must have saw that Mikael Williams sucks. And it's like, no, wait a second. I think the Niners have probably been talking about this since March.
I'm sure Saleh. You don't think Saleh brought this guy's name up immediately?
Immediately. And I think they drafted Mikael Williams knowing that they were going after this guy, because Mikael Williams is a guy that you can play with Bryce Huff. You can move Mikael Williams inside in the NASCAR package on key third downs and passing downs, and just say, hey, Mikael, rush from the inside, which is what he's good at. Or he's one of the things he's good at. And then you have Huff and Bosa on the field with him. So I kind of think that this was not a reaction to what Mikael Williams did not do in minicamp. I think this was the plan all along. Go for Mikael, and then you'll be able to use Huff and Mikael on the field together in certain, NASCAR snaps. So I could see that.
No matter what, it's too soon to say anything about Mikael. I can't imagine that there's a decision being your first round draft pick. By the way, your first round draft pick, you're giving every opportunity to prove you wrong first. He is going to get multiple opportunities to play. As a first rounder, they're not bouncing him after a minicamp. This is ridiculous.
No, they're not dumping. All right, let's get on to topic 2. You wanted to bring up Caleb Williams. So what are we talking about today with Caleb?
Okay, first of all, let's establish something. You and I stumbled on Caleb Williams last week. I think we were either ranking quarter. No, I think you know what it was. We were talking about different potential division winners. If we took the favorites out of each division, who could win a division? And I was kind of trying to talk the Bears into winning the NFC North. And you shared with me at that point, which you've shared with your audience many times, that you're just completely out on Caleb Williams. There is nothing that Caleb Williams has shown you, whether it's at USC, whether it's with the Bears to this point. There's nothing he's shown you that says this guy's going to be a franchise, legendary, superstar quarterback. And you might be right with what he's shown on the field to this point. And I told you I didn't know if I'm skewed on Caleb Williams because Jaden Daniels had such a spectacular season or if he really didn't show me enough. And then Caleb Williams comes out last week, I believe it was Wednesday. He just opens up and addresses the media, Larry, and he says, I want to get in front of something. The rumor, not a rumor, Seth Wickersham wrote a book, Larry, and in the book, he entails that Caleb Williams and his father thought a lot about keeping Caleb from going to the draft knowing that he would be drafted number 1 by the Bears. So essentially a little bit of what happened with the Manning family in knowing they were going to go to the Chargers, not wanting that, and essentially telling the Chargers, we will not play for you, which of course Chargers did draft Eli, but they traded him immediately to the Giants. We know that story. But Caleb, essentially the story was going to be similar. He didn't want to play for the Bears according to this Wickersham book. Caleb says, let me get ahead of something. Yes, we had conversations with Minnesota that went very well, and that's not surprising because that's the reigning coach of the year right now. Not surprising that he had a good conversation with the Vikings, right? I mean, that of course, what they've done in that building is well documented, so nobody would fault them for that. They had a good talk with Minnesota. He said, however, we also had a good talk with the Bears about what we could be here, but there's no secret that the Bears have not produced a 4,000-yard passer, period. So I had to take that into account. So there's two things about this, Larry. Number one, I want to take the idea that you think Caleb's never going to be the person that the Bears need him to be. And I'm going to say that as of last Wednesday, he's proven to me that he can be that person, because instead of hiding from this story and waiting for someone to ask him numerous questions about it, he gets ahead of it, and he didn't spend 90 seconds talking about it. He talked about it for 4 minutes and addressed numerous angles on the story. And it proves not only leadership from him getting ahead of it, but the foresight that he had into what his career would be based on where he was drafted. Instead of just wanting to be the number one pick, he had to also calculate what it would mean that number one that particular season meant going to the Bears, and what is the history of the Bears at the quarterback position. To me, this is calculated, this is intelligent, and this is something you would want your own child to be thinking about if he were in the position that Caleb Williams was. Him getting in front of it, him speaking the way he did, calm and measured about it, shows me this is a turning point in Caleb Williams' career. I will judge Caleb Williams from last Wednesday moving forward and nothing before. Now that I've set it up, now that I've explained what it is, now that I'm sure you've seen and heard and read some of the comments with what happened last week and the Wickersham excerpt also, Larry, does this change anything for you about Caleb Williams? Because in my eyes, this is the kind of leadership that the Bears are wanting from him, because there was also a story last week that the Bears wanted him to do things differently on and off the field. This to me is a huge first step.
Well, I mean, there are no excuses. He's got awesome weapons. He's got one of the league's best offensive coordinators. So it's like, if it doesn't happen, it's all on him. Here's at the end of last year, for those who like Caleb Williams, you can gravitate towards these numbers. Caleb Williams in his last 3 games against defenses that ranked 1st, 2nd, and 7th in EPA per play allowed threw for 827 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, no picks, and had 143 rushing yards. And this guy says he has a chance to really end this season on a strong note in the last 5 games. Things are really clicking. All right, so this was tweeted out whenever it was tweeted out. It was obviously last year. So he's had some stretches of good stuff for sure. But he did set an NFL rookie record for pass attempts without an interception. He had 232 passing attempts without an interception. But this right here, to me, is one of the main reasons I don't like Caleb Williams. I didn't like Caleb Williams in college. I don't like him now. He holds the ball way too long, and he takes a ridiculous amount of sacks. And this right here is a graph where you want to be in the top. You want to be in the top right quadrant. Who's in the top right? Or who? And this thing, you want to be right of the middle.
Yes.
So the bottom axis is pressure to sack ratio. How much pressure do you have versus how many sacks do you take? The best in the league is Josh Allen. The worst in the league is Caleb Williams. The top to bottom axis is average time to throw on pressures. And so you've got, if you look to the right of the middle, you've got Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray, Joe Burrow, Brock Purdy. You got a lot of good quarterbacks there. Jordan Love. You also Jared Goff, Stafford. You also have some quarterbacks that aren't great. Derek Carr is now retired. Bo Nix. I don't love Bo Nix. Mac Jones, Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson. But then almost all of the quarterbacks to the right of the middle are better than the quarterbacks to the left. And then who's all the way the furthest in the bottom? The quadrant you want to be at is top right. The quadrant you don't want to be in is bottom left. Who is bottom left all by himself is Caleb Williams.
Not great. It's not great.
Caleb Williams literally in this is like the worst. So he holds the ball in eternity. He doesn't process what he sees quickly. He's got no excuses anymore because he's got all kinds of weapons. He's got a great coordinator. So
yes,
we'll see.
But I love this move. From a leadership standpoint, I love this move, and it proves that he is ready to be a different person. Last season, head coach, coordinator, all of it out the door. None of us think that Eberflus did an amazing job after that Hail Mary game gone wrong against the Commanders. So this is the opportunity now moving forward. This is a fresh season, and he has now proven that he wants to get ahead of the negative spin. I love that from your quarterback. That is what you want to see out of your quarterback. Caleb Williams has a chance to prove something this season. You're right, he holds the ball. He's going to have to do something differently about that. He has an opportunity here. We're going to hold him the rest of his life up against Jaden Daniels. And right now, Jaden Daniels is winning that for sure. But when you're 1-1 in the draft, yeah, you're always under the spotlight. But he's getting in front of it. Of course, it's going to come down to wins and losses. Can he beat the Lions once? Can he beat the Packers once? Can he beat the Vikings once this season? If he does that, he's likely having a very good season. If he splits in the division, he is likely having a very good season. That division is a litmus test based on what happened last season. I mean, there was a moment in time before the end of that Commanders game where all four of these teams in the NFC North were playoff teams. A moment. For a brief moment, we thought, wow, the Bears could be a playoff team. Fell apart significantly after that and exploded on Thanksgiving Day. But we thought for a moment that it could happen. For a moment.
I believe in these weapons, and I believe in this offensive coordinator, and I believe in this GM. I just don't believe in this quarterback. So I'll go out on a limb and say that. I mean, first of all, look at the weapons he has. At running back, he's got DeAndre Swift, Roshan Johnson, Kyle Monangi. He's got three pretty good running backs right there.
Yeah.
He's got a tight end. He's got Colston Loveland and Cole Kmet. And at receiver, he's got DJ Moore, Roma Dunze, and Luther Burden. I mean, come on, you got a lot of talent there.
He's got an opportunity.
He's got three new players in the interior, and Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright. Ozzie Trapillo, Karan Amagaji. I mean, they've got a lot of talent around him, and they've got an offensive coordinator. So I do think the Bears are going to get better as a football team, but I think Caleb, I'll say right now, I think Caleb is going to wind up getting hurt because he holds the ball forever. He's going to wind up getting hurt, and then he's going to wind up missing time, and then the Bears are going to thrive with one of their two young quarterbacks, Tyson Bagent or Austin Reed, and they're going to thrive. And then they're going to, of course, go back to Caleb. And when Caleb goes back in there, he's not going to thrive. And then you're going to have a quarterback controversy. So I'll say it right now. It's going to go down that way. He's going to get hurt. He's going to take hits behind that line because that's what he does. He holds the ball. He's going to take hits. He's going to get hurt. They're going to keep getting better as a team because of the coach and the talent, and they'll start to play some good ball and win some games under either Austin Reed or Tyson Bagent, and then they'll bring Caleb back. He'll struggle, and then you've got a quarterback controversy. That's I really believe how that's going to go. Well, maybe I'm wrong, but we'll see. I don't think so. I think Bagent's got some special traits. Reed was good at Western Kentucky. Throwing to Malachi Corley. I like both those guys. And now they both know the system. They've both been in the offense. I mean, obviously you got a new offensive coordinator, so it's a new system. So, I mean, but they know the NFL. They've had plenty of time to adjust to the speed. They know the organization. I would not be surprised at all if Bagent and Reed rise up and give Caleb a run for this job.
One of these days, we're going to do our bold predictions for 2025. I love this as a bold prediction because if it happens, Larry, everyone is going to point back to you because there is nobody right now saying that the Bears have a quarterback issue. And you are. And so I love that. For purposes of what you and I do, which is supposed to say something that is going to be memorable for people here, I love it. I don't want to die on a hill that Caleb Williams is going to be amazing. I only want to be on the hill that says Caleb Williams is going to be, he is not going to be a bust first round pick for the Chicago Bears. That's it.
All right. We'll see. There's good and bad that we can point to for sure. All right, let's get to topic number 3. Aaron Rodgers.
This is good.
Certain marriages are made in heaven. The Aaron Rodgers Pittsburgh Steelers marriage is made in hell. I mean, there's no chance that all those tough people from PA are going to admire some kid from California with his, whatever, Chico, California,
Ayahuasca, yeah.
Aaron Rodgers and his weirdo comments and his weirdo whatever. It just doesn't seem like it's going to fit. And then it's like, really, Steelers? I mean, I realize Russell wasn't great. Fields wasn't great. But you're literally going to the Steelers, I think, are headed for a crash and burn. I think we're looking at the end of the Tomlin era. I think this is going to crash and burn. The Steelers have a tough schedule. The Steelers, I think, are going to probably struggle this year. And Aaron Rodgers, really? I mean, you're going to go to an older quarterback. You got rid of Pickens. It's like, and Rodgers, it seems like either he doesn't want to be there or he's very lukewarm about continuing to play. He's not showing overwhelming enthusiasm, it seems, to be in this spot. I just can't see it working out. I mean, I can't think of any quarterback that ever kind of just sat out the offseason and kind of nominally was part of a team and then signed late and then did anything. So I just think Aaron Rodgers is going to go there, and there may be a highlight here or there along the way, but I think it's going to end with him getting hurt and them going to Mason Rudolph and them sucking. And I think Mike Tomlin's always been 500 or better. He's lived on that, but not this year. They're going down this year.
Okay. I actually don't even think this is just a Pittsburgh conversation. So June 2nd, which is where we are today, Larry, this is the day, and yesterday really, was the day when the Jets were able to say, all right, we officially said goodbye to Aaron Rodgers because the money is now gone. So they get to now have the cap relief of not having Aaron Rodgers on their books. It's a June 1st designation that you make. It's just the news gets out well ahead of that. So June 1, the Jets get to say goodbye to the money in regards to Aaron Rodgers. So right now this looks tremendous for the Jets because they're saving $30 million essentially with Aaron Rodgers no longer being a part of their franchise. So whatever that weird conversation that he described with him and Aaron Glenn, he couldn't believe they flew him there just to say goodbye, which I think, by the way, that was totally the right thing to do. The respect that they showed him by having him come in to have a face-to-face conversation is the only way that turns out positively. I know he was trying to spin it as a negative. Why make me come there? Well, it would have been better on FaceTime or on the phone. No. They flew him in. That was the respect that he deserved, and they did that. The question now is, will he start week 1 anywhere? Because he's told the Steelers essentially, don't wait for me. Larry, if someone told you don't wait for me, my decision is don't wait for me before you do something else at that position. So he's saying, don't wait for me before the draft. When everyone thinks, oh, Shador's going to slide to 21 to the Steelers, because he told them, don't wait. Before the draft, don't wait. That lukewarm, you would love to get in a bath for lukewarm. For what Aaron Rodgers has given you, that is a freezing cold shower. Don't wait is a cold shower. So there's something about him that doesn't love this situation. I have no idea what it is. But my question to you is, will we see him start week 1 anywhere? Right now I'm leaning no. That he just that he will wait for a situation to open up, but he's not excited about going to join the Steelers.
I think he's going to retire. I think he's going to retire and leave them in a lurch. I don't think he's going to play. I just don't buy it. I mean, I know there's people that say he's joined a Pennsylvania country club and all this talk, and maybe, but one, I don't think it's going to work if he does play. But two, even if he doesn't, I think it's more likely that he just says, you know what, I'm going to ride off into the sunset and just does it, makes the announcement July 1st or July 5th or something. I don't think he's going to do it. I don't think
Well,
he's
look,
going to come back.
it could very well be, but look, the YouTube page that I'm on, we love Krueg Show. We're here for this, but also we're streaming today at Thinking Out Loud, Siciliano and Sam. And I want to point to, and that's because Andrew Siciliano and we do a podcast together. And Andrew, I thought, pegged this immediately and perfectly in regards to Rodgers. And I doubled down on it, and I reminded him, and I said, I think this is actually best case scenario. Forget about all the places Rodgers could go to start week one. What if Rodgers hangs out and waits? He already waited through the draft. Now he waits for the season to start. And now any of the 32 teams can have a quarterback situation. I mean, look at the Colts, right? Is there a possibility that the Colts don't love what they're getting out of Anthony Richardson and maybe don't think that Daniel Jones is going to take them to the playoffs? And then they say, you know what? What if we get Aaron Rodgers for 10 weeks in here? Now we can contend for the division. Aaron Rodgers is going to have 32 options as opposed to right now where we think he's got one in Pittsburgh. If he waits for things to unfold a little bit, now he can go somewhere that actually has the support that he needs. I still think Minnesota was the best situation. I didn't think handing it over to J.J. McCarthy made a ton of sense. And I sort of loved that Favre and Rodgers both did Packers, then Jets, and potentially could also then do Vikings. And remember, Favre took the Vikings to an NFC championship game after the disaster he had with the Jets. Rodgers could follow that same path potentially, and I just thought Minnesota has the infrastructure and, of course, the receivers for him. So I still love Minnesota as an option. And what if JJ isn't everything that Minnesota's thinking? They could still go after it. So if he waits, there are 32 options. Right now, there's one. Wait and see what the best scenario is. That's what Aaron Rodgers should do.
But I mean, how does that? What does that do to Pittsburgh? I mean, Pittsburgh wants to go to the playoffs. They're screwed.
Right now, they're screwed.
Skylar Thompson.
Well, they're Mason Rudolph. Right now, they're Mason
Rudolph. And that's bad.
They're Mason Rudolph. It's bad. It's bad. But then again, here's the other thing. You know what else to consider? Here's something else to consider. Now, it's in division, but Cleveland is sitting on a lot of quarterbacks, and so is New York, the Giants. The Giants and the Browns have a plethora, and frankly, they are overflowing with quarterbacks at the moment. By the time training camp sorts out who's actually starting and backing up in those situations, there are going to be players on the New York Giants roster right now and on the Cleveland Browns roster right now that are going to be offered practice squad opportunities as a quarterback, and they could be your starters for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, again, Kenny Pickett, he could be an odd man out in Cleveland. Could happen, right? What if they love both draft picks? What if they love Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders? That's very possible. And then they want Flacco to start the season. Kenny Pickett could be out. Kenny Pickett's got a positive history in Pittsburgh. He could end up being the quarterback. So I think there are other little options within there. It's not amazing, but Jameis Winston could also end up being the quarterback in Pittsburgh based on how training camp goes. What if they love Jackson Dart and they know they want Russell to start? And Pittsburgh comes in and says, okay, we'll take Jameis.
I mean, it's really interesting. There's a lot of teams that, have very interesting quarterback rooms. If I'm Pittsburgh, I may call up Philadelphia and say, what do you want for Tanner McKee?
Yeah. He proved it in two different games.
Look at the Niners and look at Philly. The Eagles have Jalen Hurts, established starter, Tanner McKee, terrific young backup, Kyle McCord, 6th-round pick out of Syracuse, really good draft choice, and then Dorian Thompson-Robinson.
DTR. Yep.
Who I kind of like. And then the 49ers at quarterback are almost in a equally good spot. They've got Brock Purdy, established young quarterback. They got Mac Jones sitting behind him, NFL starter, I think.
Technically playoff level, Mac Jones. Remember, if you're going to spin the positive, he took the Patriots to the playoffs.
2015 Pro Bowler. Not 2022 Pro Bowler. Curtis Rourke. A lot of people like Curtis Rourke, and then Tanner Mordecai has got a good arm and has 4.4 speed. So the Niners. I mean, if Curtis Rourke played in the preseason, I think they're going to redshirt Curtis Rourke probably this year. But let's just say he played in the preseason and played well. A team like Pittsburgh could come knocking. I mean, it is interesting when you look around the NFL. You either have a guy or you don't. And the good teams like the Niners and the Eagles have multiple guys. I mean, I think the Eagles could make the playoffs with Tanner McKee. I think the Niners can make the playoffs with Mac Jones. I don't think Pittsburgh can probably make the playoffs even with their starter.
they're looking.
I'd rather have Tanner McKee or Mac Jones than Mason Rudolph.
There's going to be another quarterback there, and as every day passes, and I want to resonate with everyone. Don't wait for me, is what Rodgers said, and I just want everyone to think about themselves, whether it's on a dating profile or a job interview. I mean, don't wait for me is really as close to no as you can get in this world.
If your girlfriend says "Don't wait for me," it's over.
It's what is that? Yeah, is that good? I mean, there's no. Don't wait for me. Just that means make other plans. That's exactly what it means. Is I don't want to be on the hook when you tell me we're screwed. It's not my fault because I told you don't wait for me. Period.
Unbelievable. Let's get to topic 4. PFF has running back rankings, and CMC's not top 5. In fact, I saw the rankings the other day, and I think I would have moved him up a spot, but not more than a spot.
Well, all right. Let's take a look at this because I really like first of all, we both really respect what PFF does. PFF does a tremendous job. It really just an incredible job in just dissecting who players should be, where they will be, the projections for what they're going to be. They do such a great job of giving you other metrics with which to take your players and stack them amongst each other instead of the traditional ways. And this list is great. And if you want to share it, we can go through. I've got it here starting with Derrick Henry if you want to share this. So Derrick Henry's at 1. And I don't think anyone's really going to say necessarily. Although heading into 2020, I do actually want to talk about this. So you said it. Christian McCaffrey's number 7 on this list. And we'll scroll through. We'll get to the 10 and decide whether we hate this. Now, this isn't just based on the number. Yes, every player is graded. These numbers are not simply based on the grades, and a couple of reasons why, because we have new players that are entering this, like Ashton Genty. So, of course, there is no professional NFL grade on Ashton Genty yet, but this is not just 1 through 10 according to PFF's grades. This takes the grades into account, and then this suggests where these players will be for 2025. Is Derrick Henry at his age heading into, not saying the best running back last season, but heading into 2025? Do you like Derrick Henry at 1, Larry?
No.
Because I think I just think there's tread on the tire. It worked incredibly well in Baltimore. He obviously shares that responsibility of running the ball with Lamar Jackson. So it's nice. It's not all on him the way it was in Tennessee. But I don't think Derrick Henry is young enough to be number 1 on this list heading into 2025. I'm sorry. I just don't see it.
Well, and it's all predicated, too, on the Ravens. I mean, the Ravens have a tremendous offensive line, and the Ravens, have tight ends that are offensive linemen, so they put extra offensive linemen. They go big people all the time, and this guy's been effective running behind their killer line. And you mentioned Lamar adds an extra, dimension to their offense that most teams don't have. So I think all those factors make Derrick Henry better than he is. So maybe he's worthy of this ranking based on all those things. But if it was just Derrick Henry in a vacuum against some other back, no. He's got multiple major advantages in Baltimore.
Exactly. All right. So let's go to 2 on this list. Now, it's tough to really argue against Saquon, and you're going to see Bijan's there at 3rd. And
he should have been 1.
But Saquon probably should be 1. But again, I'll make the same argument that we just made. The same argument that we just made against Derrick Henry probably works against Saquon. And if you look at the history of backs who've gone 2,000 yards, now granted, no one's ever run for 2,000-yard seasons. Now, that's not that surprising because it's such a ridiculous mark to hit. But most guys after that 2,000-yard season, Larry, that's a lot of tread. Now, yes, Saquon rested Week 18 to not chase the Eric Dickerson record. And instead, of course, yes, he's rewarded with not only a Super Bowl championship, the most yards that anyone has ever run for in one season, if you include playoff games, is 2024 Saquon Barkley. So congratulations. It's
also more games.
It is, but can we say that at least I have an amazing argument that the greatest single rushing season in the history of football is Saquon Barkley last season?
Oh, he's a great back. He's a terrific back behind a terrific line.
There's very little to suggest that 2025 won't be amazing for Saquon, but I also think number 2 might be rich on this based on the age. I think what we got out of Henry and Saquon for last season puts them 1 and 2, but if you're projecting to 2025, I'm not sure about that. And you can see who number 3 is, Larry, with Bijan. Do you believe in Bijan here at 3?
I mean, personally, if it was all based on going forward, I would have Bijan 1 and Gibbs 2 and Barkley and Henry down the list.
Yeah. So let's scroll through because I want to have a Christian McCaffrey conversation, and then there's another guy who I actually think should be number 1. But for now, let's just scroll through and show everybody. So we've got Bijan at 3, Jahmyr Gibbs is at 4,
which is really interesting because Jahmyr Gibbs plays with David Montgomery.
How can you not have that as part of the conversation here? He absolutely has the greatest benefit of anyone on this list. Jahmyr Gibbs is the only guy on this list who is in a dual backfield. Can we just say that? It is a dual backfield, period.
Yeah, I mean, and Montgomery does a lot of the hard stuff between the tackles. So, yeah, Jahmyr Gibbs is spectacular, but he's being saved of a lot of the knocks on the shoulders that he would get if he ran between the tackles like Montgomery does.
And you could say similarly for Bijan with what Algier gives them. All right, Josh Jacobs here. I got to say this much. Josh Jacobs had maybe this was the greatest run of the season. Larry, do you remember? I believe it was Thanksgiving. It might have been Christmas, but it was what Josh Jacobs did. I believe it was Dolphins, Packers. Jacobs had an unbelievable run this season, just as far as one play. And I understand we're not basing this. This isn't just the top plays. This is the top players heading into 2025 at this position. But I was so impressed at what Josh Jacobs brought to the Packers. I would have sworn that the Raiders chewed up everything that Josh Jacobs had to give, and he wouldn't be at that level, but he absolutely was for the Packers. Jacobs was a difference maker at this position. I loved, and in many ways, I don't know. I mean, there are Packers fans who probably miss Aaron Jones, but I thought Josh Jacobs filled that in beautifully.
I mean, he can do it all. He can do it all. He's got great contact balance, and he's just a hard guy to bring down. Yeah, no, he's a big time player for sure. He was distorted because he was with the Raiders, and the Raiders were so bad defensively that he didn't get a chance to run the ball in the fourth quarter. You're never going to fully realize your potential as a player as a running back if you're on a losing team that doesn't run the ball in the fourth quarter.
Well, ask Saquon Barkley. Obviously, the difference between being on the Giants and being on the Eagles, that made all the difference. And for Jacobs, look, Jacobs was record-setting with the Raiders also. Remember, Jacobs was the best back in football 2 seasons ago. So it's not crazy to see him on this list at 5. Now, here's where it gets interesting to me. So this right here, this 6 and 7 with Bucky and McCaffrey, you said it, maybe slot him up a list. I want to make an argument that Christian McCaffrey should be number 2 heading into this season. And I understand injury is gonna everyone balks because of injuries at this position, of course. But how far removed are we from Christian McCaffrey being, without argument, the greatest back in football? Are we a season and a half away from that statement being true? 2 seasons at the most? I think it's 1.5. And obviously you can't say if not for the injury because that's real and you have to recover from that. And then to get back up to speed where you're out racing everybody in this league is a different level. That's an elite level that you have to reach again. But what McCaffrey brings to the table, surrounded by the weapons that he has on this team, McCaffrey heading into 2025, he's the one that thinks it's on him that this team only won 6 games. He came to a team that was vying for an NFC championship, got them over the hump and into the Super Bowl, and then he's injured and that team wins 6 games. Christian McCaffrey has a lot to prove. He's excited that he's no longer running for a franchise that was going nowhere in Carolina. He wants the Niners back in the Super Bowl, maybe more than any other player on that roster. Christian McCaffrey feels that it was on him because he was not available last season. Christian McCaffrey heading into this season is capable. He's more capable than any other back on this list. I think McCaffrey is by far the most versatile back on this list. By far, without question, he can do the most when it comes to running the ball catching the ball and being diverse, Christian McCaffrey is still number 1. I'll put him at number 2 heading into 2025.
I mean, I want to see him utilized better. I mean, to me, stop handing him the ball and letting him take all these hits and throw him the ball. I mean, why have a great receiving running back if you're not going to isolate him against lesser athletes and throw him the ball? I mean, throw him the football. I want to see them throw him the ball a little bit more than just hand it to him. I want to see a little bit more creative usage for McCaffrey than what they've had recently.
And you just said it, creative usage. I want to bring that term out because you know what that is code for? Deebo Samuel. So there's no more creative player in the Kyle Shanahan scheme than Deebo Samuel. No one was more unpredictable as to what he could do snap after snap than Deebo, because Deebo as wide receiver to be lining up in the backfield, taking a handoff. That he's unlike any other receiver in that regard. So he's out now. So your creative urgency that this offense has had with Shanahan now focuses back on McCaffrey, that Deebo is not there to take some of those creative snaps. Those creative snaps are now back for McCaffrey. That's why I see him as number 2 heading into this season.
See, I can't go number 2 because he didn't really get. I mean, what's happened here? I mean, the guy had he had tendonitis in both Achilles, and now he didn't play very much. And now here it is a year later, and he's back, and we're supposed to believe he's healthy. So what happened to the tendonitis in both Achilles?
I think there's one season. Again, we all know that at 30 at this position, it's a dangerous number to be at. But as we can read here for PFF, this is the age 29 season. There's one more absolutely top-level elite production out of Christian McCaffrey. We are going to see it in 2025. There's so much to prove there. It's ridiculous. So we got to 7, and now I want us to go through it. If these are the 7, and we'll go through them again, I just want to go 1 through 7 and show this again and let people know, and then we can reset. But it's Derrick Henry 1, according to PFF. It's Saquon 2. This is heading into 2025. It's Bijan at 3. Jahmyr Gibbs at 4. That's ridiculous. Josh Jacobs at 5. Bucky Irving at 6. And McCaffrey at 7. So now if we say that, what would be your top 5 heading into this season if you had to rank it quickly, Larry? And this doesn't have to be perfect. And if you want, I'll go first with the way I see it.
Who's 8, 9, and 10? Connor.
So you got Connor at 8, and there's someone that's not on the list, which I think is just we're gonna have to bring him up. But Connor's at 8, Achan's at 9, and at number 10 to round it out is Kyron with the Rams, of course.
Okay, so I would probably, if I'm just going, I'd probably start with Bijan.
Okay.
As 1. Gibbs is 2.
Okay.
And who's 5?
So 5 on this is Jacobs.
Jacobs would be 3. Okay. Then Barkley would be 4.
Okay.
Then Derrick Henry would be 5, and then probably Bucky 6. And McCaffrey 7. I can't move McCaffrey up because there was nothing done to those Achilles other than rest. And so now what as soon as he gets back into playing, isn't he going to stop resting? And isn't the tendonitis and the Achilles going to return? I would say logic suggests it would. So as much as I like McCaffrey to bounce back a little bit, I think we're naive if we think that he's not over the Achilles injuries. They're just quieted down.
Okay, but he's also the usage on him, and we talk about tread on a tire for a running back. The usage for last season for McCaffrey is down for the others on this list. Not to mention Henry and Saquon, we know, ran the ball a lot, and they had heavy runs on them. They were the lead back in a full season for each of these guys. Obviously, they each had a game of rest, but this is tread on a tire.
They're healthy.
Yes, fine. I said McCaffrey at 2, so I'm going to stick to it. I'll put him in there at 2. I think Achan's number 1. Mostert's out in Miami. This is a team that's going to rely less on Tua. We're going to get to it. Maybe Tyreek's not even there. This is a team that knows it can run the ball well, and Achane is so good at catching the ball and running the ball. He's very versatile in that offense. What that coaching staff, what McDaniel's able to do with Achane, again, Mostert was nice. They were able to kind of share it a little bit, but last season was less of a share, and now Mostert's gone. Achane is young enough and special. I think he comes in at, was he 11 on this list? Let's see. Achane is down here. Achane's 9 on this list. I love Achane from an age standpoint and what he does and in the creativity of this offense. So I'm going to have Achane at 1, McCaffrey at 2. I'll put Saquon and Derrick Henry 3, 4, and I don't care what order. And number 5, Ashton Genty. Ashton Genty is going to be a firecracker in this league. I absolutely love what Ashton Genty is going to bring to the Raiders, and we just talked about it with Josh Jacobs was able to lead this league in rushing 2 seasons ago. Now with Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly, Ashton Genty is going to be the player we are talking. This is the offensive rookie of the year. I don't know what it is in Vegas right now, but Ashton Genty, we should both be putting that money down right now. Ashton Genty comes in. He will be a top 5 back this season. Ashton Genty, when he was drafted number 6 overall, I tweeted it that night. Ashton Genty could be the number 6 pick in your fantasy draft. That's how excited I am about what Ashton Genty is going to bring to the table.
I understand the rookie, the interest in the rookie. I just don't like that rookie because I don't like that line. I'll go with 2 rookies that I think. I'm going to go with one rookie that I think is going to have a monster year.
Sure,
and that's Amarion Hampton.
Yeah,
with the Chargers. Now the Chargers have, a really good offensive line now. You got Rashawn Slater, you got Joe Alt. They just brought in Mekhi Becton on the right side. You got a gigantic right side of the line. Zion Johnson was a first-round pick. Rashawn Slater was a first-round pick. So you got 2 first-round picks on the left side, and you got 2 big dominators on the right side. And you got Amarion Hampton, and you've got Najee Harris and other guys there too. I mean, Kamani Vidal, Hassan Haskins, Raheem Sanders. But I think Amarion Hampton is a great back, and I think he's a great back running behind a great line with a quarterback that has some weapons now in Trey Harris and McConkey, Keandre Lambert-Smith. So I like Amarion Hampton.
It's a great one.
Amarion Hampton to bust out, and if he's not the guy, I like Travion Henderson in New England to bust out.
And the only problem there, I think New England's got. I think there's a 2-headed monster there. So that's the only reason I think that there could be because they're very excited still about it. I mean, they didn't run the ball terribly last season. I mean, it wasn't a special running game, but I love what you're saying about Hampton. I am absolutely crazy about Genty. I can't imagine that a guy that just set the college football world on fire the way that he did, to know that every week from a Boise State standpoint, that's the one guy you got to stop, and he's still 100 yards every single week. This is next level special. This is Saquon out of Penn State special. That's what Genty looks like, and I can't imagine it's not going to be that.
I love Genty. My question with this is just, once again, DJ Glaze, Colton Miller, Dylan Parham,
sure,
Jackson Powers Johnson, Alex Kappa. I'm more concerned about those guys. But I like the Raiders, and I like Genty for sure. I'm just not convinced he's going to have a big year. All right.
But I think 2 things to remember. I want everyone to remember this because we like to be a little bold. The things that you should remember based on this from a running back standpoint. The thing that we said that should stand out. Number 1, you should remember the name Amarion Hampton. So everyone can credit Larry and us with that. If that turns out to be that the Chargers running game is that special, remember that we said that. I said Genty will be a top 5 running back this season. And I said Christian McCaffrey is going to be the second best back. So those are things that you're not going to hear everywhere, and people have forgotten about Christian McCaffrey. Larry, even you who talk Niners every day, that name should be more significant. That name should fall out of our mouth more often than it does, because we're so caught up in the Brock Purdy conversation, and then we're caught up with rumors and other things that are coming out, and Kittle gets signed and Warner, etc. But Christian McCaffrey could be the most important. We'll do that one day. We'll rank the sort of most important Niners heading into the season. To me, it's McCaffrey number 1 in a landslide.
Let's go with our breakout players.
Yes.
Guys that we think are going to break out and become big time. What do you got?
Okay, well,
we're going to go 5 each. 5 breakout players each.
Okay, so I guess because I just said it, why don't we just, it'd be stupid not to just follow on the tails of this. Ashton Genty is he, as far as being a rookie and being able to make an impact immediately, the way that Jaden Daniels did that for Washington this past season, Genty is going to do that for the Raiders. Now, this is a little bit of it is, yes, what Genty did at Boise State, but it also has to do with the fact these Raiders are so remade, Larry. It's tough to say that what the Raiders did last season, that any of that will carry over, because you're talking about Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly, Geno Smith. How different is this team from what it was a season ago, right? I mean, quarterback, coach, offensive coordinator, running back, all of those are different heading into this season. I mean, that is if your wife came home with new coach, running back, quarterback, offensive coordinator, I mean, that's not just changing her hair color, right? I mean, that is just like a totally different woman walks in. That is a makeover that you would be into. That's like a Halloween costume, all right? That is as different as you can be from one season into the next. The Raiders, from an offensive standpoint, are so different than they've been over the last 5 seasons, frankly, that none of us have any idea what to expect here. This is going to be a special offense. Genty is going to be a huge part of that. He's maybe, from a breakout standpoint, I'm not any more. I'm most excited about Genty. Anyone else I say on this list is I'm mild. I'm lukewarm about. The Genty thing I am bullish about. Genty, this is a breakout. Like I said, from a fantasy football, you and I are talking actual football here, wins and losses, Super Bowl playoffs. We're not talking fantasy, but Ashton is so exciting when I talk breakout. This is also a fantasy conversation. Ashton Genty, not even just in keeper leagues, Ashton Genty is a player who should be considered if you have a top 3 pick in fantasy football.
I agree. I think he's going to be really, really good. All right, I'll see your Genty, and I'm going to go with Isaac Guerendo.
Ooh, yes.
I just really believe watching Guerendo on the practice field that there's so many ways for Shanahan to get Purdy the ball to him. They can hand it to him. They can throw it to him. They can throw it to him down the field. They can throw it to him around the line of scrimmage. I just think watching Guerendo move out there on the practice field, he even looked more explosive, bigger, more explosive than ever. I just think Guerendo is he knows the offense. He'll be utilized correctly. I think they're going to throw it to him. I think he has an unbelievable year. I think we're talking about Guerendo in a major way as this season goes on.
All right.
I think this is going to be a guy that's not just going to be like known by Niner fans. I think this is going to be a guy that's known by the league. The league's going to know Isaac Guerendo. He's just too big, too fast, too good of a receiver, playing with too accurate of a quarterback. I think he's going to be big time.
All right. Well, then I'll take your Niners conversation and leave it right there in San Francisco. Now, when you say breakout, this is usually someone who hasn't done much that you're then saying is going to have a stat line that's worthy of looking at.
It could be a rookie, or it could just be somebody who you think is going to break out.
And again, I'm going to say for my list, it's going to be important for us to remember that breakout means essentially taking a huge step. You're like in another tier. To me, breakout just means now we're talking about another tier. And the guy I want to talk about is Jawan Jennings. Jawan Jennings, who had his breakout last season, you could argue, right? I mean, in many ways, that was Jennings' breakout season was 2024. Jawan Jennings is going to be a top 5 wide receiver this season. Jawan Jennings is that special. What I saw in the first game against the Rams with Purdy and Jennings. Now, granted, the Niners did lose that game late. It took a punt return. I don't even know how they lost that game in regulation. That makes no sense at all. That was such a baffling loss by the Niners last season.
Which one?
This was the first game against the Rams, where the Niners had the huge lead and gave it away at the end. And I don't even know how. And remember, that was a game with.
Well, what happened was a 50-yard bomb.
Yes.
Tutu Atwell beat Mooney Ward.
That game was awful, but if you look back, I believe was that no Kittle, no Debo, no McCaffrey. I believe it was those three that were out of that game. And I believe
right.
Ayuk might have been in that game, but I know there were three significant offensive pieces out, and I believe McCaffrey and Kittle were at least two of them. So Jennings and Purdy and that was a Jennings hat trick game. Jennings and Purdy were so good in that game together, but it showed me, all right, here's a game without Debo, and now you're talking about a season with no Debo. In other words, who's filling that Debo production? Ayuk, we don't really know what we're going to get out of Ayuk, right? I mean, Ayuk also is coming off an injury here, so we can't just say Ayuk's going to take all of that. Jennings is the guy who has a chance to remake this offense with Purdy. Jennings and Purdy have a connection. We proved it. We saw it last season. Jennings had his breakout season, but I'm talking about Jennings being in a conversation with top tier elite receivers in this league. Jennings has a chance. If the Niners are going to go where we think they're going to go, when we look at their schedule and we say the Niners are definitely going to be a playoff team, are going to vie for an NFC championship, for them to do that, Jennings is going to have a special season. Jennings was 25 yards short of 1,000 this season, and he didn't play even close to all of the games. Jennings with full production behind, what, he played 10 games this season, Larry? I think Jennings played in 10 games this season. Jennings, over the course of 16, 17 games, this is exciting. Jennings has a real shot to be a superstar here. And I remember last season, and I remember before the season started, you know who was excited about Juwan Jennings? Ocho Cinco. I remember Chad talking about this on Inside the NFL. He said Juwan Jennings was sort of like a breakout candidate for him for last season. And by the way, he nailed it. I mean, he absolutely nailed it. It was true. Jennings was that special. Jennings for this season is going to another level. I see Juwan Jennings as an absolute superstar that we'll be talking about when next season is halfway through.
It's a good one. It's a good one for sure. All right. I'm going to go with Jalen Noel for Houston. I just really think that, they got Higgins and Noel, both from Iowa State, and they took Higgins first, but I think Noel is going to be the better player. They have Nico Collins. They have Jaden Higgins. They have Christian Kirk. I mean, they have John Mechie and Tank Dell. And, I mean, they got a bunch of receivers for sure. But Jalen Noel is just super, super spectacular. I think he's going to wind up being C.J. Stroud's number one receiver in front of Nico, in front of Higgins, in front of all those other guys. So give me Jalen Noel. I just think that there's something really spectacular about Noel. He separates. He's got hands. He's got run after the catch ability. I think he has a huge year. So breakout number 2 for me is Jalen Noel.
I like that. So number 3 for me, again, a guy who, as a rookie, certainly was a name you remember. And in the Super Bowl, he was great. But Xavier Worthy, in a full season of Mahomes, no longer being a rookie, in a season where we think Kelsey may not be quite at that level. Yes, Rashee Rice is going to come back, but this is already a season under their belt without Rashee Rice. Didn't really get what you wanted out of DeAndre Hopkins. It became clear in the Super Bowl who Mahomes needed to go to. Yeah, DeAndre dropping balls in that. Kelsey wasn't running great routes, and Worthy was the only guy who made a difference. Granted, a lot of it garbage time, but Worthy, everyone sees him as just this deep speed threat, and that's what he was early in the season, Larry. But couldn't you have said that about Tyreek Hill early in his career? I mean, Tyreek Hill was not running. The route tree for Tyreek Hill early in his career was not special, and they say that receiver is the toughest. Ask Bill Belichick how many receivers he hit on in the draft. It never happened. It's a very difficult position because there are layers to it, and you have to understand the entire offense, and obviously every play isn't coming your way, and to develop a significant route tree, that simply takes time. There are very few guys who make a significant impact as a rookie, and Worthy did. And now with an entire offseason, with everything not being new, with Andy Reid and Mahomes, and knowing that they already had a special season under their belt, Xavier Worthy has a chance to be Tyreek Hill for this Chiefs offense. I love Xavier Worthy, and of course, considering who his quarterback is, I don't think it's any kind of a stretch. I just want to say, yes, as a rookie, he did break out. We knew his name early on. In the first game, he made a splash play. But Xavier Worthy could be the answer that the Chiefs had not had at wide receiver, and they may have hit on it with their draft pick last season.
That's a good one. I'm going to go Michael Penix for my number 3. I just really believe Michael Penix is going to have a huge year. The Atlanta quarterback, he's got the weapons. The team is good around him. He's got a great arm. He's healthy. I think Penix is one of the major bust-out candidates of the year.
I like Penix, and I guess I just have this fear that Penix is going to be handed the reins and not quite live up to it. I don't know why that I have that weird feeling about it. And I still, you know what? I have this weird loyalty in a way. I don't know why I have this, but I have this strange loyalty to Kirk Cousins. I think it's something about the 500-yard game just continues to stick with me, and I can't see Penix as living up to that. But if I was going to argue Penix, I would say the game week 17 against the Commanders, they lost that game in overtime, and that could have put them in the playoffs. They would have had a chance week 18, more of a chance than they had. And they lost that game to Washington, but Penix was very good in that game. I'm just not, I don't know why I'm just not quite there, but I'm not. All right, so here we go. This will be a name that people in the NFC West certainly know about, but I want to make a preface here. Again, I'm talking about going into a different tier. Trey McBride is the best tight end in football. Trey McBride is going to be the best tight end in football in 2025. Now, right now, there are Hall of Famers ahead of him in Kelsey and Kittle, of course. But in regards to what McBride is going to be this coming season and in the seasons moving forward, and certainly over the course of the next decade, there have been so few difference makers at tight end outside of the two guys that I just mentioned that everyone's waiting on Pitts and maybe Laporte is that guy. Trey McBride makes that offense click in Arizona. And had he had more than 2 touchdowns over the course of last season, everyone would be having this conversation already. He's going to stumble into the end zone 10 times next season without question. And he already is the leading threat for Kyler Murray. And anytime Murray needs a special play, it comes down to McBride. McBride is absolutely built for this. He is the Rob Gronkowski of this generation. Trey McBride is going to revolutionize what happens at the tight end position, and he will be tight end 1 next season, and he will be the kind of keeper fantasy draft pick at tight end moving forward. Trey McBride, Trey McBride, Trey McBride. Remember that name, because at that position, there will be no one more special soon.
Wow. I like that one. I'm going to go with Marvin Harrison Jr.
Oh, same team. Okay.
Marvin Harrison Jr. is a major talent. And, I just think he's ready to bust out. He's got Michael Wilson and Zay Jones, and, they've got some other receivers there, Dortch. And
McBride, as I just said. I mean, McBride, it helps. It frees him up in that offense.
McBride, yeah. And I just think I could see Marvin Harrison Jr. just taking it to the next level. I could see the same for Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas in Jacksonville, and Malik Neighbors with the Giants, but there could be Dart. He's a rookie. Lawrence, I don't know about. You mentioned everybody talks about McBride, but that Marvin Harrison Jr. now gets to play in the shadow of that. So I'll go Marvin Harrison Jr. as a bust-out guy, number 4.
And there were games last season. Larry, I thought it happened. I really did. I can't remember the game, but he had like 100. Did he have 190 yards in the first quarter in one game last season? I think he did it. When he absolutely showed that he can be every bit of the person you're talking about. It just happens so infrequently, and I don't know if that's. I have no idea. It was Arizona. Just I don't know what they were doing from an offensive play calling stance, but there was no consistency there with what Arizona was doing offensively. I thought Harrison. I thought it happened already, and then it just fell off a cliff. How can someone like Marvin Harrison disappear in games? There were games where he had 10 yards. I don't even understand that. Marvin Harrison, you're right. I mean, there's 2 guys in this offense. I obviously said McBride is one of them. So here's another guy I'm going to say. So now for my number 5, and this is going to be pretty far off the reservation for people. And it's a shame that I didn't come up with a defensive player, but this is going to be another running back. But Cam Skattebo has such a chance to be a do-everything player for an offense that we're not excited about right now, for a team we're not excited about right now. But you mentioned Malik Neighbors. Cam Skattebo, who the Giants drafted, what he did at Arizona State. Remember, Arizona State had an unbelievable season, Larry. I mean, Arizona State was in the playoff, even if it wasn't an expanded playoff. They were one of the 4. Arizona State was that special because of Cam Scatterbo. And if you watch the New Year's game, the playoff game against Texas, just pick up that game in the final 8 minutes with Arizona State trailing Texas 24-8 and watch what Cam Scatterbo does to tie that game and put Arizona State in position to win that game. He's running the ball in the end zone. He's catching 50-yard passes down the field. He threw a touchdown pass in that game. Every part of what Saquon Barkley took away in going to Philly from that New York offense, Cam Scatterbo can fill into. Now, to suggest that he's Saquon Barkley, I understand is going a little far, but Cam Scatterbo has a chance to be the gadget specialized player for the Giants that they are missing once Saquon walked out the door. Cam Scatterbo, keep that name in your mouth and remember where it came from. Levi, my son, he just says that name randomly to me all the time, Larry. After watching that game on New Year's Day, he'll say Scatterbo and rip a helmet off his head every once in a while. He just loves what Scatterbo did, but promise me that you'll remember that we said it. Cam Scatterbo, breakout player 2025.
All right, you're going to go to rookie running back. I'm going rookie running back. I'll go with Amarion Hampton. I think Hampton's going to be a great player. I think he's going to be a great player right away. I think the Chargers have a line. They've got weapons. They got a quarterback. They got a veteran running back there in Najee Harris to kind of compete with them. But I think Hampton is a difference maker, and I think Amarion Hampton has a huge year in L.A. with the Chargers. And that would be my guys. So your five guys are Genty, Juwan Jennings, Xavier Worthy,
Trey McBride,
and Cam Scatterbo. I'm going Isaac Rendo, Marvin Harrison Jr., Jalen Noel, Michael Penix, and Amarion Hampton.
I love it. I think that's great. And I was trying to think on defense. We'll come up with it next week, but I was trying to think
I'll give you one on defense that I really like. I like Krueger in Atlanta to be, is their second round pick. He's going to start as a defensive tackle. I just think he's an absolute monster. And now that he understands what he's doing in year two, I think Krueger is going to be really, really good. And I'll give you one local one too. Just from watching practice the other day, Jacob Cowing. Did very little for the Niners last year. Jacob Cowing is going to do a lot more this year. A lot more.
And I guess if I'm going to say defense, I mean, Travis Hunter, that's unfair because he could do it on either side of the ball. So I'm going to say James Pierce. I think Atlanta, in getting the 2 first-round draft picks the way that they did to steal back into the first round and to completely remake their defensive line, I'm going to say they're going to figure that out. They have to be better on the line, and if they are, it's because James Pierce is special.
Last thought as we go with the 6th spot of topics today. Tyreek Hill to the Niners is an idea that Mike Florio threw out. What do you think? I'll just throw it to you that way. I mean, everybody knows that Tyreek's had problems off the field. He might be a little too hot for the Niners to touch. I love him as a receiver. I don't know that it fits unless you could move Ayuk in the deal to get him. But if you could move Ayuk in a deal to get him, I probably would consider doing it. I have no problem going with Tyreek Hill, but of course I don't know exactly what kind of a character this guy is or lack of character. So that being said, I'd be concerned because of domestic violence and those kinds of issues. But if those things checked out and you could get Tyreek Hill, I wouldn't mind him.
Kyle Shanahan, Tyreek Hill, it's a win for me. I mean, we talked earlier about gadget plays, which are out the door with Debo, and now you bring a lot of that back with Tyreek, end around, etc. Tyreek Hill, what he did in Miami, there were those of us who thought Tyreek may not resurface after going to Miami, right? Oh, maybe it was Mahomes and maybe it was Andy Reid. Look at what he did in Miami. Again, for anyone who thinks you and I are not high on Tua, and if anything, we think that a lot of what Tua has done at this point is due to Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill, Brock Purdy, Kyle Shanahan, I love, and Christian McCaffrey. I mean, you talk about a flag football team, which we haven't really talked about, but that is going to be a thing in a few years. But I love Tyreek Hill in the short term, Larry. I mean, if you're talking about what do I think about a decade of Tyreek Hill, 5 seasons of Tyreek Hill, I don't necessarily love it. But if you tell me the first year that Brock Purdy's making $50 million, he's got Tyreek Hill instead of Debo to throw the ball to, why don't I love it? I mean, again, if you're not taking money out of my wallet, you're just saying we can play in a dreamland where Tyreek Hill is there a team, is there a roster in football that wouldn't take Tyreek Hill? I mean, who's going
I
to
think
say
everybody
no to
would take-
Tyreek Hill?
Yeah, everybody would take the player. It's just a matter of, the person. Do you want the person? And the Niners have pretty high standards when it comes to character. I don't know that he would fit their standards, but if he did, I'd take the player in a heartbeat. Let's hit 3 supers before we jet.
Yes.
Frappa says, Larry, thoughts on trading for Bryce Hall?
Ooh.
Apparently he's available. Him and a safety would help a lot. I kind of like Jordan James and the Niner backs. I mean, I kind of like Corey Kiner. Bryce Hall's nice. He's definitely got a lot of speed. He played at Iowa State. I think he would probably cost more. I'd rather have Malachi Corley, to be honest. I think they have a greater need for a receiver that can replace Debo than they do have a need for a running back when you already have CMC and others. So I would probably pass on Bryce Hall, depending on the price, but I'd be very interested in Malachi Corley. As far as a safety, yeah, I could see the 49ers going with the safety. Definitely, depending on how long Malik Mustafa is going to be out. No question.
This is funny when I read a statement like that, Larry, and it's so funny because this is like in baseball when you say we're a starting pitcher away from contending. Like it's such a big difference, and safety can be one of those, right? I mean, when you're weak at that position, it lets up so much. And I've said this often. How many teams are happy with their secondary? As a fan, it's so hard to love your secondary because every time you're watching your team get burned in a game, you're cursing at your cornerbacks and your safeties because that's where those plays go. So few teams love, just like few in baseball, who loves their bullpen? If you're going to the bullpen, things are not going well. Nobody loves their bullpen, and nobody really loves their secondary. It's so few and far between. No fly zone, Legion of Boom. There's been a few, but not often. Nobody's in love with their secondary.
No, it's a good point. It really is. Jake McCoy in the house says, Larry, do you think this could be a year where the Niners transition CMC to more of a pass-catching threat to prolong his career? They should. They should, absolutely. Run him less between the tackles. Joseph Ernberg, Larry is the most negative person I've seen. Wow, I always say that about Ernberg. Sorry about that, Ernberg. I don't mean it personally. I actually thrive. I love your negativity, Joseph, but thanks for touche, I should say.
And by the way, Larry, can I say this much? You love the Niners schedule. You're talking up the first round draft pick. You like the Brock Purdy signing. Negative if you're a Niners fan, Larry's. You're thinking positive in a lot of key spots here.
I mean, it's all relative, right? It's all relative. If you say 5 or 6 positive things, but Ernberg, that's just Ernberg's joking with me because every time I say, I love the nobody's more negative than Joseph Ernberg.
Okay, perfect. Okay, perfect. Giving it back. Touche. I love it. I love it.
He's fighting back. Ernberg, I appreciate that. Anyway, that's going to do it for us. Sammy, what do you got cooking the rest of the day? And we should tell people, everybody who's watching this, Sam has his own YouTube channel with the great Andrew Siciliano, and give him a like and a follow over there at his channel. And tell people, Sam, if they don't know where your channel is or how to find it, give them the 411.
Please come find us. Just type Thinking Out Loud Siciliano and Sam into the search bar. Thinking Out Loud Siciliano and Sam. Andrew and I, once a week, are doing a podcast. We've got videos up there on the page as well. Also, I hang out with Larry on Mondays. I hang out with Damon on Thursdays as well. And every once in a while, JT the Brick, our buddy who's hanging out with the Raiders, JT will drop me into his as well. You can catch me there at Thinking Out Loud Siciliano and Sam. And then the podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, Thinking Out Loud with me and our buddy Andrew Siciliano, who you remember, of course, from Red Zone Sundays. And he's no longer there, but you can find him now with us.
Claudaddy Arcades, thanks to them. Thanks to Mancini's. Once again, use the code Krueg10 at checkout at any Mancini's locations to save an additional 10% or online at sleepworld.com. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krueg Show. Hit a like and subscribe over here. Hit a like and subscribe over at Sammy's channel. Sammy, we'll talk to you next Monday.
Cannot wait. For
Sammy, I'm Larry. Have a great day, everybody. Grant and I will stream at 2, so about an hour and 15 minutes from now. See you then. Peace. Yeah, never met a man I've been